I figured since we're at the end of the year that normally we would have been to the barns already. We would have done our Are You Art Smart contest, but we aren't and we can't. So I figured a small review for you, just to show you how much you know about art and how art smart you really are. You know, we started off with the different elements of art. Like, what are the primary colors? I'm not telling you, I think you know. What are the secondary colors? I mean, if I mix blue and red, what do I get? If I mix blue and yellow, what do I get? If I mix red and yellow, what do I get? What are the complementary colors? I'm sorry you don't have your color wheels with you. Or your Art Smart journals. But I think that you know enough that some of these things are going to be remembered, like water, shade, and tint. And I thought I would just show you the guy who thought that lines intersecting was very important and who thought that color had weight, and he didn't like the color green. We started off with Mondrian. Remember, he didn't like green to the extent that he even painted a white tulip's leaves white. That's pretty excessive. And then we made our portfolios in the style of Jackson Pollock, the action painter. Remember, you were outside and you were throwing around your paint just like Action Jackson did. Yeah. I mean, I liked yours much better. We had an artist who we really did many times, who painted in blue because he was sad. Do you remember who painted in blue? I'm trying to be organized, but I'm not. Remember, he used blue as his palette. But as he was one of the giants of art in the 20th century, his art kept changing. So he started making what we called crazy faces, abstract. Oh, and when you go to the barns, because I really hope that you do go to the barns, this is my favorite painting in the barns of the artist that we painted like. Can you see that? You can't miss it. When you go, you cannot miss it. I mean, it's there. And then finally, he used a simple line to express peace and love. Do you remember his name? He was from Spain. Pablo Picasso. That's right. And we talked about how when he painted, when he was sad and he painted everything in blues, that it was monochromatic. Chromatic means color, mono is. Then, let's see, we talked about light as another element of art. And if you look through a window, and you can see clearly, what is that? Is that opaque, transparent, or translucent? I'm not telling you. I think you guys know. Okay, and then we talked about, this is really tiny. He was the artist who never left France. He never saw a real jungle, but that didn't stop him from using his imagination and painting jungle scenes. We're talking about Henri Rousseau. And then we talked about someone who painted really long faces and long necks and long noses, like this guy. He painted everything long. He even painted his landscapes long. That was his style. And we were inspired. I don't think that's showing up too well, but it's another long portrait. So we painted like him. We also painted the most famous portrait in the world. Do you remember her? Painted by Leonardo da Vinci. Her name, I'm not telling you. I'll give you a hint though. Begins with M. And then we talked about shapes and how everything is made up of shapes. We did a still life using shapes. And then we talked about what is 2 dimensions and what is 3 dimensions. Do you remember Stabiles by Alexander Calder? There are Stabiles in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. There are so many artists, and I'm not even sure that I remembered all of them. But we did Jackson Pollock, Pablo Picasso, Claude Monet. Remember Monet, the Impressionist? And we did the bridge over, the Japanese bridge over the water lilies. We did Mona Lisa. We did Mondrian, Paul Cézanne. He was the still life. Remember, we did the fruit. We did Amedeo Modigliani. We did Henri Rousseau, he of the jungle. We did Vincent van Gogh. Vincent, we did the sunflowers with texture. And if you want to see a Vincent van Gogh sunflower painting, you'll have to go to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. There are Van Goghs at the Barnes, but the sunflowers are in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. We did Calder. We did Rembrandt. We did Klimt. Remember Gustav Klimt, the Tree of Life? We did later on Salvador Dali. We did Georges Seurat, who painted with a dot. We did Joan Moreau, the guy who had a sense of humor and his own picturesque language. We did Marc Chagall, very romantic, very dreamlike. We did Gainsborough and Thomas Lawrence, Proportion. We did Georgia O'Keeffe, the larger-than-life flowers. And we did Henri Matisse. We would have done a lot more Matisse if we had been still in school. But c'est la vie. Now, I'm really hoping that at least one of the artists that we were introduced to this year spoke to you. Because remember, art is just another way of communication. And if not, if none of the artists and none of the different styles like Fauvist or Impressionist or Abstract or Expressionist or Realistic appealed to you, there are thousands of more artists that we haven't even begun to talk about. And with that, I hope you find an artist that speaks to you. Remember, you don't have to like any or all, but I hope you find someone that really talks to you. Because, believe it or not, you really are art smart.